Welcome. You're watching Charter California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We are joined by Rusty Bailey. He is the mayor of Riverside. Sir, you've been in office, about 9 months or so. How is it going? I mean, you came from the council. You're now the mayor. You grew up in Riverside. How you doing?
Well, Mayor Leverage said the last year he was going to sprint to the finish line, and that momentum has continued.
Okay.
So I'm still sprinting.
Are you sprinting?
I'm looking for a way to slow down a little bit.
And you had a serious election, getting through the primary into the
10
general.
months.
You were sprinting all the way there.
Yeah.
And so I must say it probably feels good now that the economy has taken a turn. Give me a sense of how Riverside is doing, because for our viewers statewide, whomever may be watching, there was this sense that the Inland Empire, Riverside County really was suffering during the economic downturn.
Riverside has weathered the storm,
Right.
and part of that was because of our responsible and responsive government that we've
Right.
established. Renaissance, we invested $1.6 billion into a Renaissance, which is infrastructure, which is our Fox Theater, Municipal Auditorium, downtown, libraries. And so I think that gave us a attractive space as well as a story to tell to those looking for investment. And so we're seeing job growth. We're seeing
stunning
1,400 jobs created last year. Those are permanent, jobs, and then another 9,000 construction jobs to go with the developments we've had in Riverside.
And speaking of the Renaissance, I know that soon you'll be celebrating a version of the Renaissance with the mayor's celebration for arts and innovation on October 12th, 2013. Give us a sense about this event.
That's it. Well, I get to change it a little bit. The new mayor,
right?
New place, new event, but same goal. It's for arts, raising money for the arts in Riverside, and then also for innovation. My heart's in education, coming from the education sector.
You had been a high school teacher for our viewers.
Yeah, and how do we create jobs for the future? We need to invest in our entrepreneurs. And so we're looking for innovators, entrepreneurs that we can support through the fundraising as well.
And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that in 2012, Riverside was named the #1 intelligent city in the world.
Number one.
In the world.
In the world. So we just handed that title off to
did it happen?
Taichung City in Taiwan. And so, that I got to go to that and pass the
Taiwan?
torch. Yeah.
You went to Taiwan?
No. It was in New York that
okay.
they have the annual award ceremony. And so Riverside goes as the former city to pass the torch. And it blew me away. I didn't go last year. Mayor Leverage was there to win the award. But just the caliber of individuals and cities competing for that was incredible. And they chose Riverside because we have that digital inclusion program going on, the wireless network that we have, and the universities and colleges and school districts that are focused on education.
And let's talk about one university, UC Riverside. As we speak, class is in session for its medical school.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say.
Victory.
We're going to be speaking with Dean Olds in a moment.
Yeah.
And so it really is a tremendous victory. We lived through this, I as a reporter, you as a council member, where it just looked as if the medical school was not going to get accredited, was not going to get its funding. It did get accredited. In the last few months, the state of California agreed to give $15 million a year for the foreseeable future to UC Medical.
That's right.
Talk to me about why this is so important for this community.
The momentum that it creates in the healthcare industry, in the medical community, and the pride that it gives our city will reverberate for years. It's like bringing another UCR to Riverside,
literally,
to the region. It's not just to the city, but it's a regional benefit, the economic impact, the doctors that will graduate, and then the hope is to keep them rooted in Riverside, and that's another $1 million plus, per year economic generator and impact that they have for each of those doctors' offices. So it's an incredible benefit both in delivering health care and services and moving those indicators, making our region healthier and our individual people more healthier, but also the economy and the health of the economy in Riverside.
And we know, and Dean Olds will discuss this, that the Inland Empire has seen a lack of physicians in its midst, especially primary care physicians. And when you think about the Affordable Care Act coming online, more people will be seeking primary care physicians. And the region is continuing to see population growth. So it couldn't come at a better time.
No, it's the perfect timing.
In many ways.
Perfect timing. And again, the momentum also with Riverside Community Hospital investing $300 million into the expansion of their facility right in downtown Riverside. That'll be connected to the School of Medicine. It's great timing. piggybacking on our renaissance. And so this is, I would say, it's another renaissance for our city, led by the School of Medicine, led by the private sector and the healthcare industry. I just got back from Germany. I was over there visiting our sister city, signing the official documents.
Please tell us about it.
Erlangen is our sister city now.
Where is that?
It's in Bavaria, in the state of Bavaria, but it has a medical valley similar to the Silicon Valley. State of Bavaria, many parallels to California in the economy and in the strength of that state and Germany. And so I went, Siemens Medical Division headquarters is in Erlangen. Talk about momentum. Yeah, and that's why we chose them. And we sought them out. And so now next week, the medical director, the CEO of the Medical Valley, executive director, is coming to Riverside to look for some space and some relationships to establish some of the business connections from there to here. He incubates more than 40 businesses for Siemens, for the city, for the state of Bavaria. Gives them tens of millions of dollars. Coming out next week.
It's symbiotic.
Tour. Yeah, it's perfect. So it's an opportunity to grow globally in our medical, prominence and relationships. And so I'm hoping that comes to fruition.
Since you mentioned sister city, I wanted to ask about Sendai. That is a sister city of Riverside's in Japan, and that city was really decimated by the tsunami. I believe Mayor Loveridge may have gone after the earthquake, and maybe another council member, I don't remember.
He did.
But any update on Sendai? I know that the city has been trying to help to the extent it can.
Right. The mayor took a check of $600,000 plus dollars that was raised by the community in Riverside, by individuals that have connections to Sendai. We have the oldest sister city relationship in the country is Riverside and Sendai.
Oh, so it's historic.
Maintained relationship. My great aunt was one of the individuals who started it in the committee 60 plus years ago.
Wow.
So it's in the blood. So I'll be visiting next year to see how we can continue to support and help them. The university in Sendai, Tohoku, hopefully I'm saying it correctly.
However you say it,
has a relationship with UCR because of the relationship between the sister cities. They send, I think it's 50 students a semester to the tune of over the 3 years. It's going to be like a $5 million economic impact to the city in this relationship that we've established because we have common interests and common goals.
I want to talk about your relationship with another city, and that city is Sacramento. I think it's fair to say that the relationship between the capital in Sacramento and cities throughout California have been strained. Is that fair?
Sure.
Yeah, strained. Redevelopment eliminated. Enterprise zones all but eliminated. What are cities doing to try to incentivize development as Sacramento continues to strip tools?
It's hustle. It's back to bootstrapping and really figuring out what your assets are in your city, in your region, and going after businesses that fit into the sectors that you want to see continue to grow. And so it's planning, and then it's execution, the old style, sometimes cold calling. I had a friend that has restaurants growing in Raleigh, and he's buying historic spaces, and he's turning them into restaurants. And I said, you know what? We've got some spaces in Riverside. I'm going to give this guy a call. Boom. And this guy's a millionaire. He's got 10 restaurants in Raleigh and all sorts of stuff going on. So he calls me back and says, I'd be interested, in coming to check out Riverside and see what you got going on. So
it's literally just called.
It was a prompt. It was a prompting. Somebody said, why don't you do like Rick Perry does, and start, hustling and being aggressive at saying Riverside's a place for business. We say that we're business friendly, business first. We've got a lot of internal processes now that are focused on handholding
and a
rolling out
functional
the
government,
red carpet,
which is not which a lot of cities can't say.
We're online when it comes to a lot of permitting, and now development is going
fully
online to active for requests for proposals.
Right, I understand.
For the city, all of that stuff is going online. We're going to become an online government.
Well, you're the intelligent city.
Yeah, making it easy and cutting down on waste in many ways. And so Riverside is open for business.
You bet.
And the mayor is going to continue to be aggressive at bringing business to the city.
His name is Mayor Rusty Bailey of Riverside. When we come back, we'll speak with Dean Olds, Richard Olds of UCR Medical School. He's very excited. School is in session at UCR Riverside Medical School. I'm Brad Pomerance. We'll be right back on Charter California Edition.
Since the Intelligent Community Forum began providing Intelligent City Awards in 1999, how many American cities have won? 1, 3, 5, or 7? 3 American cities have been named the Intelligent City of the Year since 1999: LaGrange, Georgia, New York, and Riverside, California.
Welcome back to Charter California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Our guest, Richard Olds. He's the Dean of UCR Medical School. And yes, it is a medical school. It is operating. Classes have begun. I don't even know what to say. I want to cry on your behalf. I mean, unbelievable. It's here. It's happened. How are you feeling, sir?
Well, you know, it's been a long process.
Yes.
I've been on your show many times. And, you know, several of those hurdles, I'm not sure people thought we could actually overcome. But, you know, we actually got the school accredited without new state money. I think nobody thought we could do that.
And isn't UCR the only medical school that was denied accreditation and then received it a year later?
Yes, we are the only medical school in the history, I think, of the national accrediting body that was turned down and then actually got accredited.
Right.
And we got accredited the following year.
Right. And you also overcame another hurdle. The state had turned down recurring monies, and yet you came back fighting. And just recently we learned the state is providing $15 million a year into the foreseeable future.
Yeah. It's really an amazing story of really the persistence really of our community.
It's
not just us. You know, we were turned down solely because we lacked ongoing state support. And
that first accreditation.
The first accreditation. And we went to our own community and basically raised $100 million in 9 months from, remember, Riverside is not an overly affluent community. 80 million of that 100 million came from Riverside County.
Wow.
And we went back to the national accrediting body, and they came out and granted us a second site visit. And I think they were so impressed by how much this community wanted this med school, they accredited us.
Right.
Still not a lot of money.
Right.
But we then went back to the state and said, listen, if we're going to be a going venture, we have to get state support. Every other state med school has a lot of state support. We deserve state support, and we just got it actually just a few weeks ago.
And it's really miraculous because we know the governor had been a little reticent to provide that funding, not specifically because it's UC Riverside, but the state's fiscal crisis is just on the mend, and so every nickel and dime was being looked at.
Yeah, I think that's I don't think anybody ever opposed the idea of the UCR School of Medicine. Remember that we may be the only item ever to pass unanimously with both houses for both the med school and the funding for the med school. So it's like mom apple pie in the UCI School of Medicine. Everybody thought it was a great idea, but getting the money turned out to be a lot harder than I thought.
What's also interesting is your biggest proponents during this legislative cycle were 2 freshman members.
Yes.
Richard Roth, a state senator, and Jose Medina, a state assembly member. I mean, my hats are off to them because as freshman members, it's stunning that they were able to navigate the political waters to the extent that the governor ultimately signed on the dotted line for that $15 million year in and year out.
Well, I can't say enough good things about both Assemblyman Medina and Senator Roth. Clearly, they were allowed to introduce one piece of legislation their first day. They both introduced exactly the same legislation to fund the School of Medicine. They basically fought the fight throughout the legislative session, through lots of obstacles, and then they worked the back rooms in the end to get the money. And it really shows you what a community to do, and in this case the community's legislators can do, when everyone in the community wanted this done.
For our viewers statewide, I want you to describe for us why this region so desperately needs UCR Medical School. You know, other than it's nice to have a medical school, but there are much grander justifications.
Sure. Remember that the biggest problem in California is actually a maldistribution of doctors. There are several areas in the state that actually have an absolute surplus of both primary care and specialty physicians.
And they are large cities?
Well, you know, Marin County, you know, West Los Angeles, Orange, the coast, North San Diego, you know, areas, affluent areas that obviously attract lots of doctors. We don't happen to live in one of those. Inland Southern California, despite being a geographic area about the size of Maine, has a 3,000 physician shortage. We have about half the physicians that we need, and because 40% of those existing physicians look like me, they're 55 years of age or older, and they're all going to be retiring, the physician shortage in this area, it would be severe no matter what happens.
And what's interesting is while inland California did see a spike in population in the last decade that's pulled back, it is starting to grow again. So this region desperately needs medical physicians.
Yeah, we're not going to stay stagnant. To put this in perspective, the entire state of Indiana has a 2,000 physician shortage, but they're just getting older.
Right.
Inland Southern California is getting older, and we have a high fertility rate. There's in-migration.
Right.
We're going to probably double our population in the next 25 years.
And I also wonder, with the Affordable Care Act coming online, more individuals will be seeking medical care, not at the emergency rooms, but with primary care physicians, and that's where there's been a particular dearth.
Right. So it's not just that we're short of doctors, we're short of the kinds of doctors we need. And both nationally, California in general, and clearly in our area, the key is going to be more primary care doctors. Those are the doctors that you and I go to when we first get sick. They do most of the prevention. They're the ones that manage your diabetes and hypertension. And they're the ones that are key not only to the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, but quite frankly, key to improving our health statistics. And we need about half the doctors of all medical schools to go into primary care. And statistically, we're only about 1 in 6 go in primary care.
Now, so your residency programs, are they focused on the areas where we need those doctors in their IE?
So to get doctors to practice here, it's not enough to build a med school.
Right.
We have to recruit students from our own geographic area. That's about 40% of the decision of where to practice. And we have to create graduate medical education programs on the backside. And we've created them in the 6 specialties in shortest supply, which are primary care internal medicine, primary care pediatrics, family medicine, and then interestingly, general surgery, OBGYN, and psychiatry. General surgery, because we're largely a rural area, and every one of those community hospitals has to have a team of general surgeons to stay open, and there's a shortage of general surgeons. OBGYN, because we have the highest fertility rate in the state.
Of course.
And psychiatry, because we tend to forget that, but the mental health services are also grossly on demand, almost as much as primary care.
I want to talk about the students. They're in class now. Remarkably and admirably, it was very difficult to be admitted to UCR Medical School. To give us some stats.
Well, you know, we were, I wouldn't say worried, but remember we're a brand new medical school, and we're starting 5 months late because that whole accreditation delay put us 5 months off cycle. So many people didn't even know we existed when they originally applied. They would have had to go back online to discover we'd open. Despite that, we got 2,400 applications for our 50 spots. Out of that group, we looked only for students that had connections with inland Southern California, because of this philosophy of training students from our own area. And they had to be qualified, but we found 700 of those.
So theoretically, if you had 700 spots, you would have felt good about it.
I probably could have filled them with 700 students. And then we actually went through an interesting process. We interviewed very closely 220, looking specifically for the qualities that we really wanted in our students. And we had the luxury of obviously having this really strong pool, so that in addition to being smart and you know, having, if you will, the right stuff intellectually, we look for the qualities of commitment to their communities, interpersonal skills, wanting to be a physician as a calling rather than as a way to make money. And we picked a fantastic class of 50 students. The really amazing thing, though, is that we had no idea how many students we accepted would accept us. Remember, brand new medical school, you know, there's lots of great med schools in California. We're picking really competitive kids. And we actually, in the end of the day, we offered 83 students places in our med school, and we filled 50 spots out of those 83 applications.
That's stunning.
That's stunning. I may be one of the best statistics in the state.
So could you tell us about a couple of them? I mean, any highlights? I mean, I know they're all your children, but where do they come from here? Or?
Well, we tried to find students that have connections, but as you might imagine, it was a lot easier to find students with connections to the western parts of inland Southern California, just on the basis of both population and the quality of the schools, et cetera. And harder, but we have found there's a wonderful student that's coming out of Imperial County. Now, I can tell you Imperial County is a county in dire need of physicians. And we also have some wonderful stories of people who they really came to us because they wanted to go to med school with our mission. I was asked earlier, you know, why did you do so well? I think it's because we told everyone what we were doing.
And they heard you.
We're doing something different than all the other med schools, and they thought that was great. That's what they wanted to do.
Congratulations. UCR Medical School is open for business. I'm Brad Pomerance. You're watching Charter California Edition.
How many separate accredited medical schools operate in California? 8, 9, 10 or 12? "12 medical schools educate future doctors in California."
It's Charter California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance, and our guest is Mike Gardner. Mike is a member of the Riverside City Council, and here in Riverside County, there are issues relating to the First Amendment's clause dealing with religion. It's shocking that we are talking about the religious clause in the First Amendment, but we are. And I want to focus first on an issue that is percolating right here in Riverside. Then we'll talk about something that's happening in Lake Elsinore. And that deals with what some see as the very beautiful Mount Rubidoux Cross. For our viewers who are not familiar with the situation relating to the cross, why don't you give us a sense of what's happening there?
Well, the cross was placed on the mountain when it was privately owned. A family, the developer of Riverside's famous Mission Inn, Frank Miller, had the initial cross put up over 100 years ago. And it's gone through a couple of iterations as it deteriorated and was replaced. But after Mr. Miller's death, his family donated the mountain and the cross on it to the city for park uses. There was a challenge a couple of years ago from a First Amendment group that said the cross is a Christian symbol, it's on government property, that's improper. Rather than litigate it, Riverside chose a proven method of dealing with the issue by converting it to private property. We auctioned, it was an actual auction of the property. It sold to the highest bidder, and in this case, the highest bidder intends to maintain the cross in perpetuity.
And who was the bidder?
It was actually a consortium of 3 local groups. One is, it's called the Friends of Mount Rubidoux, a land conservancy, and the Mission Inn Foundation and Museum, whose goal is to further the agenda of Mr. Miller himself.
And so the donation of the huge plot of land remains. It's just a small part, right where the cross
less than half an acre surrounding the cross on top of the mountain was sold.
And it was sold, is it $10,000? Was that?
It was $10,500.
Okay, so that money went to the city, and the issue we thought had been resolved.
Yeah, as far as the First Amendment challenge and Riverside, the issue is now behind us.
That being said, there is now a court case bubbling up dealing with the gift of the entire plot of land to the city of Riverside from a descendant of Mr. Miller's grandson. I guess it's a stepdaughter of Frank Miller's grandson.
Yes.
She has raised some shackles, I guess you could say. What is she saying?
She is reopening a probate decision from the 1990s. And that probate decision references a reversionary clause that was in the initial gift by her grandfather, if you will.
Or great-grandfather, step-great-grandfather. Right.
The initial gift had a reversionary clause that said if the property is developed or the public is kept away from it and a couple of other things, the property reverts to the Miller family. Under state law, a reversionary clause like that must be re-recorded within 30 years or it lapses.
And that would have been 1985.
That was 1985, and it was not re-recorded.
By the Miller family.
Yes.
And so what she is claiming now is not that she wants to unravel this sale of the less than half an acre of the cross, but somehow she wants to stake a claim so that if Riverside should do something in the future, that her descendants could then come back and seek to reclaim those portions of Mount Rubidoux.
Those are her public statements. Her public statements are, I support what Riverside has done. The cross is important. The mountain is important to the city. It should stay in public use. But just in case somewhere down the road Riverside tries to do a bad thing, then my children could step in and prevent that.
So right now, as we speak, the claim has just been made. We don't know where it will go from here, but the Mount Rubidoux controversy continues.
In a way, yes.
In a way. Let's shift gears and talk about Lake Elsinore. This is a very interesting scenario. Lake Elsinore has a minor league stadium.
Yes.
And there had been an attempt, and the attempt is still progressing, to create a memorial. Explain what the memorial was going to be, what it was then changed to, and then we'll talk about the legal question.
The proposal for the memorial is that this is a memorial to military personnel. And the initial design was a soldier kneeling before a cross, and his head is about, it appears as though he is praying.
Right.
There were people who raised a concern that called out a specific religion, and this is a city-owned
and that's
property.
The key.
That is the key. So it's a specific religious symbol on government property, and the argument was that's prohibited by the First Amendment. So the artist, the designer of the memorial, said, let me fix that. We'll make it more historic, and we'll have a row of crosses, and we'll have a row of Stars of David as appear in national cemeteries, and in Europe, where so many fallen U.S. soldiers are buried from the invasion of Normandy. That was also challenged by a First Amendment group. It went in through the trial court. The trial court said, yes, that is an improper recognition or support of particular religions, and it's not permitted. And the city of Lake Elsinore is looking at appealing that decision now.
It's interesting because I think there's a sense that if somehow you add the Jewish faith to a memorial, that will change it. But the reality is that's just but two faiths, Christianity and Judaism.
Yes,
there are so many.
Other,
there are so many other faiths, and so I think it's fair to say that Riverside looked at the question and said, we probably won't be successful here. There had been a San Diego decision that suggested we wouldn't be, the city would not have been successful. Lake Elsinore is taking a different approach, and they are deciding to fight the matter.
Yes, they've elected the litigation path.
Given what you've learned through the Mount Rubidoux process, what would you say is their likelihood of prevailing?
It's difficult always to predict what a court will do, but this would appeal through the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is, of the appellate courts, the one probably most likely to take the position that anything that supports a particular religion or religions to the exclusion of others would be improper. And then there's a real question as whether the U.S. Supreme Court would ever take an appeal from the Ninth Appellate Court.
Now, again, I would remind our viewers, if this were on private property, there would be no question that it was absolutely permissible.
Exactly.
No one is trying to claim that a private entity can't profess whatever they would like to do in terms of their religiosity, be it for 1, 2, or 100 religions.
Exactly.
It's because it is on Lake Elsinore's minor league stadium's property that becomes the question.
It's government property, and symbols supporting, in theory, a particular religion.
I want to ask you, why is it that you believe that these issues continue to percolate? What is it about symbols professing religiosity that continue to attract the attention and the desires of so many people that they be shown in public forms?
I think it's a mix, and this is just my own opinion, and everybody has got a different one, but as we become a more diverse country and more inclusive of minority viewpoints, people are standing up and saying, wait, me too. Where when I was a young person, people didn't do that.
Right. In some ways, the quote majority faiths or the mainstream faiths, one could argue, may feel under assault, and so they need to stand up.
Yeah, some practitioners of those faiths do. I mean, I know Christians who feel very offended that someone thinks a cross shouldn't be on government property. It's there to represent us all, even if you're not a Christian.
His name is Mike Gardner. He is a member of the Riverside City Council. My name is Brad Pomerance. You are watching Charter California Edition.